Okay, thank you.
Hi, Misha.
Hello. Welcome to Vinhos Prazeres channel.
Chegando perto dos 100 vídeos do Vinhos e Prazeres, voltamos para a Geórgia. Hoje recebendo Misha Dolidze, que é um produtor de vinhos da Geórgia. Misha, how you magician decide to make wine in Georgia?
Doctor, we used to love wine, for dinner, for meetings, for friends and families. And then eventually we decided to have our own wine. That's how it happened. There was no intention to go commercial or something like that. We just acquired 1 hectare of land in Kaheti, in the village of one of our friends, and we decided to plant a vineyard. So it was as simple as such, and we just wanted to have some nice wine for ourselves, our families, our friends, for you when you come to Georgia. And then from the beginning we decided to have some rare varieties which are not anymore so well present in the country. And we wanted also to have the natural wine because we wanted it to be as healthy as possible. We do not still look after quantity, actually. We want, because, as I said, generally, I think that we are responsible to produce natural things because we are responsible in front of our nature, our customers, our friends. Everybody that drinks our wine should know that they will not have a hangover or, depends how much they drink, but still.
How many bottles you produce today?
Last year, from 2019 harvest, we bottled approximately 10,000 bottles. And from 2020, we will probably bottle about 15,000. In total, we process 8 hectares of vineyards, and I don't think we will ever go above 40,000 bottles. And this quantity is increasing every year because, when we bought the land, it was an empty land. There was nothing, and we planted the grapes. So as time goes by, the grapes grow and they start producing, and also their production increases. So, for instance, our oldest winery is now 5-year-old. Yeah, it's very young, and it's probably in a couple of years it will reach stage of maturity. But we still manage to have some harvest, which, as I said, is increasing every year. So, but at this moment, we found ourselves selling the wine also, which, as I said, we did not think to become commercial. Then, it was very funny story that our very first harvest and the wine we presented to the New Wine Festival in Tbilisi, which is the biggest event in the country and probably in the region for wine. And then, people seem to like it. And then we entered with our wine to the Qvevri Wine International competition. And it was very funny story because, we, on the day of nomination and awards, we came with our families, with small children. It was in one very old monastery, very beautiful place. So we went for fun, and we had a great fun. It was small outdoor and with families and everybody. And suddenly we found that people are very serious and they were waiting for their awards and so on, which is very understandable, right? Because these people were professional, and we were just, we had no idea what we were doing. So, and then suddenly the judges announced that one of our wines, Kisi, won the bronze medal. And, we made a lot of noise. We were very happy. Imagine first year bronze and so on and so on. And then the event went on, and suddenly they announced that the second hour wine, Tsuyvani, won silver. We were even happy. Said, "Bravo." Whoa, you see what we did? And suddenly the third wine, Chitistuala, won a gold.
Wow.
So, and of course, we immediately went to restaurant and we celebrated. And I mean, it was great fun. I mean, imagine, we did not have any expectation, just to participate there, it was a huge honor, because we were standing like with very well-known and very professional wineries. Just participation was a great pleasure. And suddenly we won 3 medals, and this is when we decided that maybe it would be worth it to bottle it.
Congratulations, Misha. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you very much. And then this is how we appeared actually from medicine in winemaking. Then we decided to expand, because by that time we only had like little less than 1 hectare. Okay, but then we decided to expand, to put on new varieties, more varieties, and as I told you, right now we have 8 hectares of grapes. All of them, we have exactly 15 different varieties. All of them, they are Georgian varieties. Most of them, we have very well-known varieties, such as, for instance, Saperavi and Katsiteli and Tsuane. But there are certain varieties which are very rare, and fortunately now they are getting more and more popular. And we also help, people just giving away buds for seedlings and so on and so on. But by that time, for instance, Chitistuala, I think only we had Chitistuala by that time. And then now it's at least 4 or 5 companies doing making wine from Chitistuala. But our philosophy is the same. I mean, we like to work with this rare varieties. We don't have big quantities. We have approximately from 500 to 2,000 grapes of each variety. It's a relatively small quantity. We are kind of artisan wine making, and we are completely natural. I mean, we almost never use, we never use mineral fertilizers or herbicides and this kind of stuff. We try to bring on as much biodiversity in our vineyards as possible, keeping different birds and snakes and good insects and so on, which help us in fighting bad guys. And we also, of course, we spray, but I should think that 99% of our sprayings are so-called contact chemicals, not systemic chemicals. No, very rarely, unless we find a very heavy problem. If we find very heavy problem in the vineyard, then we may use fungicides, but in regular periods, we don't. So we do approximately 9 sprayings per year, more or less. We do not irrigate. We do not, as I told you, we do not do the aggressive interventions either in the soil or in the vineyard. And consequently, our harvest is relatively smaller. I mean, we have approximately 4-6 tons of grapes per hectare. Sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less, but we never try to push for the quantity, And in addition, also, as I said, they are very young. The grapes are still very young, and consequently, we do not expect to have, like, for instance, 10 tons or 12 tons per hectare. And we don't wish to have that amount either. I mean, if it happens naturally, then fine. If not, then we also try to introduce somehow different techniques of pruning, for instance, or different techniques of enology, like, for instance, green operations or prunings, or we use a lot of moving in the vineyards, and then we try to, using prunings and grass and everything, we try to create natural humus is a proper word, I believe, on the surface of the soil. And this is, and also, for instance, after extracting wine from Qvevris, all the hard part, skins and everything, go back to the vineyard after being burned out, let's say, as we call it, after being not fermented, but, you know, dried out and somehow sterilized. So rarely we use fertilizers, but we exclusively use fertilizers which are organic, either from cow farms or sheep farms or chicken farms, and you know, whatever comes with. And also is I think it's important to mention that many wineries try to introduce into their grapeyards such weeds as, for instance, alfalfa, which is very useful herb because it brings up to the surface a lot of nitrogen from the soil. So, but in our area and in our vineyard, it grows naturally. So we try to stimulate this growth. And actually, once we started moving the vineyard, then different interesting herbs.
And now you export to many places.
We export to the Netherlands, Switzerland, USA, UK, Japan, Italy, and Poland.
And the proportion,
we are very lucky, you know.
And the proportion of consumption in Georgia.
Well, I mean, it was like almost, well, initially it was almost all of it was in Georgia, but then it became like 50-50. But last year, demand for export increased. And we, on one hand, it is necessary to be present on Georgian market, because even many exporters and many our partners, when they look for Georgian wine, obviously they come here and they search in different wine bars and wine shops. And many of them, this is how they found us, actually. And it's important to be present on Georgian market. And also, I mean, we like to be present on Georgian market because we already have certain category of people which look for our wines, and we want to be here. But on the other hand, demand for export increased quite much. And we like also to export because during export, we don't pay taxes. While selling in Georgia, we do.
Yeah.
So, I mean, in Georgia, we can get the same money as, for instance, sales in USA, but from Georgian money, we pay then 18% VAT. And during export, we don't. So it's very beneficial to export.
Yeah. And you produce more amber wine than red wine.
You know how it is? Yes, obviously, yes, because we have much more white varieties, but production of Saperavi is also increasing. For instance, last year we bottled 2,500 bottles, which is 25% of all bottles. And this year we will bottle up to 4,000.
Okay.
And we also have other red varieties. I mean, And one more thing, I don't know if I told you that we bought a land in Western Georgia.
No.
And we want to start putting on the vineyard in Western Georgia and start having wines from Western Georgia. And most of the varieties in Western Georgia are red.
Okay.
So we will, I mean, it's completely different concept. Western Georgian varieties and Western Georgian wine is very, very different.
And the terroir is different too.
Very different terroir, very different climate, very different soil. Varieties are very different. And winemaking technique is also very different. They almost do not use skin contact.
Okay. And you sell to the chacha, or it's just a consumption, internal consumption?
You mean Western wine? You mean the chacha?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, previously we used to just give it away because we did not like it. But now we started making better chacha, and we started putting them in different plants, like for instance in oak barrels or in different kind of, for instance, rosemary and different kind of plants together with different kind of mud. And we let them stay there for 5 years, 10 years, and then we will see.
Very good. And do you use barrel for the wines too?
No, never. We don't use oak for wines.
Okay.
Because we use skin contact, then we don't use oak.
And you never need to put water to. It's sufficient. It's enough the water that the rain that you have.
The wine, you mean?
Yeah. No. To the soil, you don't use.
You mean the irrigation?
Yeah. You don't need to irrigate.
It again, I mean, depends on the philosophy. If you want it to be, well, nothing against of irrigation. And in one of our vineyards, we now set up the dripping irrigation, but we are not going to irrigate like throughout the whole summer. If we have a drought and if the grapes get stressed, then we will do anti-stress irrigation, like for instance, putting it on for 24 hours, but not for 2 weeks or 3 weeks or something like that. Only we will irrigate only anti-stress so that it does not stress the grapes.
Because there are countries like Portugal, the Douro Valley is so dry that they're thinking with some little irrigation to not to lose the grapes.
Yeah, I mean, that's also about change of the climate. I mean, the climate seems to be getting warmer, but in our case, last 2 years, we have a lot of rains, a lot.
Okay.
So that's also why we don't need now irrigation.
And you don't think to make sparkling wine too?
We do.
Oh, yeah?
Actually, yeah, we are thinking to do pet nut. Not the classical champagne, but the pet nut, naturally sparkling wine. We even did this year some experiments. We will see. I mean, we are working on that. We bottled first 50 bottles of naturally sparkling wine. All right.
I want to thank you again for your.
Thank you to you, Alberto.
Explanation. I hope I'll go back and see you again. And
I hope very much so.
to drink some. Yeah.
Hey, and thank you very much for your interest. I think you do a lot for Georgian wine in Brazil.
Yeah,
Not
yeah.
only in Brazil.